Hola, ¿qué tal? Muy buenos días. Mi nombre es Luis Cervera. Soy el director general del Instituto Latinoamericano de los Cereales. Nos da mucho gusto tenerlos aquí en esta segunda serie del webinar que hemos hecho desde el mes de mayo. Nos da mucho gusto que se unan y el día de hoy tenemos un tema particularmente interesante. El día de hoy tenemos el gusto de tener a Michele Lefebvre, que es una experta en temas de nutrición sobre pasta. Es un alimento que nos hace falta conocer más, difundir más y saber qué tantas cosas podemos crear con la pasta. Les doy las gracias a todos los que se unen en Latinoamérica, en Centro, Sudamérica, México, el Caribe. Y esta sesión, solamente recordándoles, se estará llevando en inglés y las preguntas al final las podrán hacer en español y en inglés de la misma manera. Si me permiten, voy a cambiar un poco al idioma para darle también la bienvenida a los hablantes de habla inglesa. Good morning. My name is Luis Cervera. I'm the CEO of the Latin American Cereals Institute. We're very happy to have you here. On this second chapter of the webinars we've been doing since May, today we have a wonderful topic. We're talking about pasta. We're talking about how pasta is a healthy, nutritious, and a reliable food for everyone. So we're so glad to have such a personality as Michele Lefebvre. I'll be reading some of her bio briefly, but again, thank you very much. In the end, if you have questions, you can send it through the chat. I will be translating them for Michele. The whole webinar will be in English. And then after this, we'll be uploading this with subtitles for all to you follow. And thank you again for being here. Just before going forward, I would like to thank the sponsors today, Molenkemi, Bueller, and Stern Mexico, for being here and making this possible. De nuevo, muchas gracias a los patrocinadores, a Molenkemi, a Bueller y Stern Ingredients México por hacer posible esto. Pues bien, sin más, quiero poder presentarles a Michele Lefebvre, que es nuestra ponente el día de hoy. Espero que le haya hecho bien. Lefebvre, voy a leer muy rápido una biografía de ella. Thank you again. I will try to pronounce it correctly. Michele Lefebvre. She's a registered dietitian and nutritionist, a culinary nutritionist, educator, and nutrition communicator. As of now, she's the nutrition and well-being manager for Barilla America. At Cornell University, she developed as a course facilitator, visiting lecturer, and nutrition management director. At Purdue University, she was a visiting clinical instructor. Also, she's been working on her own as a dietitian, food, and nutrition consultant. At the University of New England, she acted as a lecturer in food and nutrition. On her education background, I can tell you she's an alumni from Cornell University, holding a Master's of Management in Hospitality Administration, an MBA. At Sony Oneonta, she got her bachelor's degree of science on dietetics. She did a minor on food service and restaurants administration. Among many other relevant things I can share with you about her, she did a dietetic internship at Syracuse University. So as you can see, we have a prime time guest today, sharing all the story, benefits, advantages, and most important, how does pasta change our world and the way we eat? Michele, thank you again for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Luis, and buenos dias to everyone. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and speak to you today about pasta, the wonderful world of pasta. I really appreciate this opportunity and look forward to hopefully convincing you, if you need some convincing, that pasta is a healthy, nutritious, and reliable food. So I am going to give me a moment as I'm guessing you only see the square. So I'm
actually, yes.
waiting until, here we go. There we go. Again, thank you for this opportunity to discuss pasta. If somebody said to me a couple of years ago, would you be talking about pasta for an hour? And I thought, no way. I have learned so much since joining Barilla a little over a year ago about pasta, and I do hope to share some of those insights with you today. So with that, I'm going to go delve right in, and this is our agenda for today. Just kind of introduce our company, Barilla, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on that. I want to delve into overall facts and figures about pasta and start really challenging pasta myths. You know, there's questions like, oh, pasta is not so healthy, right? So really inform you and perhaps give you some high level tactical communication to take away from today. I'll review some benefits of pasta in the diet, but also we'll close with some pasta trends. So I got such a wonderful introduction. I appreciate that. I don't think I could have said it better, but I will also add, I grew up Italian-American. I am a New Yorker at heart, although I live right now in the greater Chicagoland, which is where Barilla America is, the corporate offices are. But I grew up with pasta very close to my heart. So, you know, I knew about pasta. I love pasta, but I've definitely expanded that love since joining Barilla America. So a little bit about our company. We are family owned and we have been for 145 years. The company has spanned over 4 generations, but we've only been in the Americas for about 25 years. And I just want to highlight something in the lower left-hand corner. That was our original pasta shop. And on a recent trip to Parma just this month, I was able to visit that. That pasta shop. It was pretty neat how it was the original. You can see that we span the globe. You know, we have almost 9,000 employees, 20 brands, but then 30 production districts. And you can see half of them are in Italy, but we do have half abroad. We actually have a commercial office and a plant in Mexico, as well as a commercial office and a customer center in Brazil. But we, as I mentioned, our corporate office here in the United States is in Chicago. I like to highlight our mission, mostly because it really speaks to me as a dietitian. We bring to the world joyful, wholesome, and honest food inspired by the Italian lifestyle and the Mediterranean diet. And what really stands out for me here is joy and wholesome. Our founder said, make food that you will give to your own children. And that rang true 145 years ago, and it still rings true now. Today. And the amazing part about it is pasta goes beyond the Italian lifestyle and Mediterranean diet. And we hope that it brings joy across the world. And that's really why I want to highlight our mission. So with that, I'm going to go into just some pasta facts and figures, just, you know, high level, just really, you know, how are people eating pasta across the world? You can see leading countries in pasta consumption. We've got a few here representing, in fact, Venezuela and Chile are bigger pasta consumers than the United States. Not surprisingly, Italy is the highest, but Europe definitely holds a significant revenue share and will continue to hold it in the global pasta market over the coming years. But what's interesting is dry pasta really is set to remain the most widely consumed type of pasta throughout the world. Finally, the global market is forecasted to reach around 93.3 billion by the end of 2033. So the idea is that it will continue to grow. All right, pasta consumption eaten throughout the world. This is actually throughout the world. Mintel data demonstrated it not just in the US or the Americas region, but throughout the world. You can see dry pasta continues to be the most significant type of pasta. We have flavored pasta, and you also will see egg noodles, and then pasta side dishes that have some kind of packet with them. They have some, you know, hamburger helper or Nora pasta sides. I don't know if those are popular in your region, but they're very popular here in the United States. But I also pulled what I thought was really interesting generational differences. You can see that Gen X and older tend to go towards just plain dry pasta, whereas the younger generations are starting to look towards the pasta-based meals and the flavored pastas. And those reasons are twofold. Gen Z and millennials really rely on eating out, and that drives their interest in pasta. But when they're cooking at home, they're really relying on value and convenience. And so that was interesting data as well. Finally, let's bring this directly to Latin America. 99% of Latin American homes buy pasta 25 times per year, which, I don't know if that seems high or low to you. Like I said, I was just in Italy. We usually eat pasta at least twice a day. When you're in Italy, in the United States, it's a little bit higher, but then we compare our Canada, also in our region, and it's about 8 times per year. So, there's a big difference in terms of looking at our overall region and how we are consuming pasta. In Latin America, pasta is consumed primarily in big cities. And what's interesting is that the gluten-free pasta market is expected to expand significantly in the coming years. And finally, just some interesting data around how much pasta is imported versus exported. So we're exporting a lot more than we're importing. This is Mexico only, but you can see almost 3 times as much is being exported. So that's also of interest. And perhaps, you can go and share the healthfulness of pasta with your friends, family, and colleagues after today. So with that, I'm going to move into some of the pasta myths and hopefully challenge them so you feel a little bit more familiar with what are the common ones. And perhaps there are more. And again, feel free to drop some questions into the chat if you know of some other common pasta myths, but these are the ones that I hear mostly. Oh, you're the dietitian for Barilla? Oh, pasta is such a bad carb. Or even bigger is, oh, carbs are bad. I never eat carbs, or I don't eat carbs because they're bad, or I don't eat them at night. So these general categories are common pasta myths. Pasta is a processed food. It has very little nutrition. And finally, pasta makes me fat. That's a classic one as well. So we're going to go through each one of these, and hopefully I can debunk the pasta myths. Let's start with the first one. Carbohydrates are bad. Here's the thing. I'm going to put my dietitian hat on and say carbohydrates are necessary. They're a necessary fuel. They're actually the body's primary source of energy. They help fuel our brain and all of our other organs. But they also keep our digestive systems healthy and are economical and accessible, which really makes them reliable, as we had pointed, in our title. But look at this. We have some old heritage food pyramids. I have the Asian, the Latin American, and the Mediterranean depicted here, but also the United States and Canada have my plates. And all of them have a significant portion dedicated to carbohydrates. There are different types of carbohydrates in different areas of the world, but carbohydrates are clearly making up a big portion of what is recommended as a healthy dietary lifestyle. So we have certain types of grains, things like bulgur, quinoa, pictured here, things like wheat, and then of course bread and pasta. You're also finding corn and rice. So these are traditional carbohydrates. And I would recommend that we completely dispel this myth. Carbohydrates are not bad and are clearly a big part of the overall healthy lifestyle, diet lifestyle. Okay, so moving into myth number 2, not just carbs are bad, but let's look at pasta is a bad carb. Carbohydrates in general are compared by their unique digestibility, which impacts something known as glycemic response. So I have a chart here that shows measurement of glycemic response. Pasta is a high quality carbohydrate with a low glycemic index. And you can see that in this picture, right? So the unique combination of durum wheat pasta, so we use durum wheat in traditional pasta, which has a high protein or gluten content, plus the extrusion and drying process actually creates a very complex structure that results in pasta being absorbed much more slowly than other refined grains. Pictured here is potato, soft drinks, and white bread, but it's also, you put this up against, I'll show you a chart here in a couple of slides. But traditional semolina pasta is made with such high quality wheat, and the process keeps it at a low glycemic index. So you can see the spaghetti here compared to some of the other foods is lower in the glycemic index than the other foods. So pasta is, on average, most pasta is a low glycemic food. For those of you that are scratching your head and saying, what is the glycemic index? The glycemic index is really a measurement to demonstrate that not all carbs are created equally. The glycemic index is used to classify foods that contain carbohydrates. There are tons of different carbohydrates, but they each affect your blood sugar differently. And the glycemic index measures how quickly they will raise your blood sugar when they're eaten. So doctors, in order to get these numbers, so it goes between 0 and 100, scientists actually observe how healthy people's blood sugars are affected when they eat certain carbohydrates. And so they go on a scale of 0 to 100, and it really is meant to demonstrate that given the same number of grams of different carbohydrates, it affects your blood sugar differently. There are other things that affect the glycemic index. Product composition. So if a food has more protein or fat than another carbohydrate-based food, that's going to impact the glycemic index. The overall carbohydrate type, how much fibers are present. Cooking methods make a difference. So if you add fat or protein to the cooking method, and then finally processing. I love using corn as an example. You can have whole corn, you can have a corn tortilla, and then, different variations in between there. So how overly processed the food is can also impact the glycemic index. The glycemic index is a very valuable tool that is actually used to promote blood sugar and weight management. There is general consensus around the world that glycemic index actually not only helps with diet, but overall health. And I've put a few studies here over the last 15 years. I'm not going to go through each one of them, but you can see that there are some studies that say glycemic, the GI is the best predictor. Low GI diets result in significant improvements in BMI, total cholesterol, also weight. So this is really looked across the world as a great tool for managing blood sugar and weight management. Traditional pasta actually has a low glycemic index, which is a big surprise to a lot of people. I will admit, I am a dietitian. I will say that I assumed pasta had a medium to high glycemic index before I joined Barilla and started looking. We actually do measurements of glycemic index on our pasta every year. And you can see that the dry pasta, and we actually did an average of different brands. So this is we're not going specific to brands, but we're looking at specifically at dry durum wheat pasta. They consistently are in the low glycemic index area. But compare this to other carbohydrate foods, like, I don't know, I mean, we could look at corn. Corn tortillas are low, but then, you look at something like instant oats, which people say, oh, eat your oats. And again, it's that processing, right? Instant oats are in the high category, just like sweet potatoes are in the medium category. So really interesting. And what I hope to demonstrate here is pasta is a very high quality carbohydrate that can really have positive influence on blood sugar control. I have better news. There are further effects on the glycemic index of pasta. All right, so I don't know about you guys. If you like your pasta mushy or something known as al dente. In Italy, the way to eat it is al dente. Al dente actually means with a bite. And you can see, I have it pictured here. You see that little bit of white in the cross section of the rigatoni noodle. When you cook pasta, you're cooking it about 1 to 2 minutes shorter than the recommended cooking time. So much of our pasta is in a 7 to 9 minute range. So if I was to cook a rotini, perhaps I would cook it for 6 minutes. So it would just have this bite, al dente. Well, al dente pasta actually reduces the glycemic index even further. Another thing that can impact glycemic index or blood glucose levels is cooking pasta and then cooling it and reheating it later. So some people cool it and make pasta salad, but actually if you cool it and reheat it later, you can see it has less effect on blood sugar than if you eat freshly cooked pasta, which has the highest. Again, still good, still low glycemic index, but in comparison with fresh chilled versus chilled and reheated, the chilled and reheated has the lowest impact on blood glucose levels. So if I haven't convinced you enough, then I am going to let my little rigatoni noodle convince you. I have a short, I think it's about a 2.5 minute video. So I'm going to play this.
Hi everyone, it's me, Pasta. Do you recognize me? You probably know me in many different shapes and sizes, but it's still me, healthy, delicious, and nutritious. Do you know why? Here, let me tell you. Everything starts from the wheat. You have to choose the best durum wheat. Did you know that in durum wheat there are 2 very important elements, starch and protein? To make me, you have to grind the wheat very well to get the best semolina flour. Semolina is a yellow coarse flour obtained by passing the grains of wheat through large rollers and crushing them gently to avoid damaging the starch. When it's ready, semolina goes to the pasta factory, where it meets the second fundamental ingredient, water. Then the semolina and water are added to a large tank and evenly mixed. Otherwise, I won't be good enough. And then a large screw compresses the wet semolina, turning it into a uniform dough. Now let's see what happens during kneading. This process enables the starch as a sort of protective layer is a unique phenomenon which only happens with proteins, which have special features. Then the dough is pushed through a It's very important that I am dried slowly, passing through a hot air environment. It has to be